With the new Mega cards being released and kind of settling into the meta, we have to take a look at Japan. Japan has had a few more sets than us, and a few more Megas have released in Japan, such as Charizard, such as Gengar, and also a few others that I don't really remember. But the main ones I want to look at today and talk about are, well, none of the Megas, actually. What I want to talk about today is Dragapult. So, Dragapult, you guys know, is a deck that I have been loving recently, and I had a few question marks, actually, coming into this next format, and that's mainly because of one card. Psyduck. So Psyduck obviously is a card that was kind of targeted to counter the Dusknoir card, because that's obviously been a bit of a problem in the meta for a while. Obviously it wasn't overpowered. I don't think it's as strong as Munkidori is, but it's definitely had an impact and has given life to one of the most dominant decks in the game. So it's fair enough that it gets a counter. And Psyduck says Pokemon can't, well, blow themselves up. They can't Sudoku themselves. So basically your Dusknoir ends up just being a liability with 2 to 3 retreat that you just can't retreat, and your opponent just can get it stuck inactive, and then, well, you can't do anything. So it is a basic Pokemon of 70 HP. That means it is puffinable, which is very easy to get out. However, I don't think people realize that there are many ways to get around this card. So first of all, we have the good old Phantom Dive 60, and then plus the ping on Hawlucha, and then on that turn we can kill it and then pop our Dusknoirs. But there is also another card, another workaround that people have been doing recently, and that is the Klefki. So Klefki, while it's in the active position, all basic Pokemon don't have abilities, which is very strong, because not only does it stop the Psyduck, it also stops something a bit more sinister. And by that I mean, if we take a look at Goldengo, well, what is Goldengo's engine, right? If we take a look, they have many ways, they only have one way. They have many ways to find their basic Pokemon. However, when it comes to finding the evolution Pokemon, you have to rely on Genesect. And what's something that these decks have been including recently? It is the Lunatone. Lunatone is a basic Pokemon, and so is Genesect. Klefki can shut both of these off, right? Which is very strong. So while it's inactive, you can just completely turn these off, and they can't grab their Goldengos, which means they can't draw cards with the Goldengos because the Goldengos aren't in play, and they can't draw cards with the Lunatone because it's a basic Pokemon. So they have to find a boss and gust around it. You might be thinking, oh, but they play Artisan and Nest Balls and Princess Trolleys, and they can grab Iron Bundle of that. Well, Iron Bundle is a basic Pokemon, and you can't use Iron Bundle if Klefki is inactive. So they have to find one of their 4 boss's orders. And look, that's not the main problem for Klefki, is that it is gustable around, right? But the nice thing is that decks that do play Psyduck, such as, I think Charizard's the main one. If I probably go click on a random Charizard Pidgeot list, I'm guessing there'll be a Psyduck in here. Yeah, so here's a Psyduck. This is what it does, in case you didn't really know. But obviously, when Klefki goes into the active, we turn off Damp, right? So that's super nice because, well, we don't have to gust up Psyduck and turn it off with something like Flutter Mane or some weird stuff like that. We can just get Klefki into the active spot, pop our Dusknoirs, slap an air balloon onto our Klefki, or manual attach for the turn, retreat into our Dragapult, and then Phantom Dive. And we have access to stuff like counter catchers and stuff like that. So people were thinking that this card was going to be a big problem. And don't get me wrong, it's not ideal, right? Because now we have to change deck lists to accommodate ways to actually get around this annoying Psyduck card. But it's not as bad as people think. We still have a very high share in the meta, and our win rate, look, it isn't great. It's sitting just below 50%, but that's also because, well, yeah, online players, you know what I'm saying? And also just the online meta isn't too great for it, right? A lot of Goldengo, and I can almost promise you that a lot of these Dragapult Dusknoir players do not know how to properly play against Goldengo, right? Another thing is that I don't know why, but lots of people still aren't playing the higher candy counts. I see most people playing 2 right now. Let's just check a list over here. Yeah, this one's playing 2. Lots of people are playing 2, but I have just been seeing so much success personally with 3 to 4, right? Usually I have 4. And it just lets the deck be so much more aggressive, because you still can play slowly. You still have your 4 extra cloak. And against that matchups, you don't have to greed into a Dragapult. You don't have to, right? You can build up slowly with your Dracloaks, with your Dusclops and stuff like that, but it just gives you the option. So like against Gardevoir, the main way I beat Gardevoir is by rushing those Dragapults, right? Gardevoir doesn't play item lock. So what is something that we can do? Well, we can just greed Dragapult, Phantom Dive, kill the Curliers and Routes before they even become Gardevoirs, right? This one's playing a Mega Gardevoir. Look at this guy. He's he's so cool. Well, he did get top 4, so fair enough. But yeah, okay, that is what Dragapult is right now. But something else that I wanted to take a look at was the future Dragapult. So we are already looking to the future, and what happens in the future? Well, it's a new dawn, it's a new day, and this is the upcoming card, upcoming toy for Dragapult. And if you don't know what this does, Dawn lets you search for a Stage 1, a Stage 2, and a Stage 3 Pokemon, right? Absolutely bonkers. So good. Now imagine being able to search for a, Hawlucha to get the pings off. You can get a Dusclops to pop, and also a Dragapult to evolve. That's 3 Pokemon, right? Insane. So very, very good card. And it's just, I'd say this is just a better Brox, right? It's a better Brox. It's arguably a better Hilda. I'm not too sure, like, maybe if you're playing Slowpolt like these, like Japan is, it's, you know, no candies, so you can play the Dawn. But I feel like if you are playing the aggro Pult, then you do still need to play Hildas, but you can probably just cut the Brox and play a Dawn because it's just a lot better, right? Because Brox is either 2 basic Pokemon or 1 evolution Pokemon, and this is 1 basic Pokemon and 2 evolution Pokemon. You can have them, all of them, right? So you can grab like a Fezandipity and a Dracloak and a Dragapult, right? You can do that. You can get +5 essentially off of this single supporter and also a free Dragapult. So if you have Neo Upper in hand and have a Dracloak on bench, you can get your Dragapult in play with that Neo Upper and then also draw 5 cards, or at least see 5 cards, because you can draw 3 off of the Fez and also see 2 off of the Dracloak. So that is what's happening over in Japan. We are seeing people play the Jamming Tower, and obviously since Terrabox just won, we do also see a Shaman being included. But that's all, obviously in Japan, everything is best of 1, and it's just, you can't greed as much as you want. So you see a lot of decks, you know, random decks playing Tatsugiri, playing even cards like, what's its English name, Squawkabilly. But yeah, so if we take a look at City Leagues, because City Leagues have started back up again, we can see what is doing well. We see Dragapult over here, we see Dragapult over here, we see Dragapult over here, and then we also see the usual suspects, such as Goldengos, right, and Grimmsnarls, and Gardevoir. So if you thought the format was going to be changed heavily by Megas, well, unfortunately, you were very wrong, because it really hasn't that much, right? We do see some, like, every once in a while sneaking in, like over here we have a Lucario, over here we have a Mega Charizard, over here we have Mega Latinas. So there are obviously cards that are doing quite well, but we have the usual suspects, right? We have mainly Goldengos, Dragapults, and Grimmsnarls. Something that is really cool in Japan right now, or at least cool if you're a Dragapult player, is there's a lot of Grimmsnarls, right? There's a lot of Grimmsnarls going on, which means Gardevoir isn't able to win as much. Obviously, don't get me wrong, Gardevoir can still win, like, under any circumstance, but there is less Gardevoir, and that is really nice to see. And we just see a whole lot of Dragapult. This was a list actually that I wanted to show you guys as well, and I thought this was a really cool idea. So it is Dragapult, but it's almost like a turbo Dragapult in a way, because you are playing a high count of the Alakazam Abra instead of the Dusknoir. So what happens when you can't use one Psychic Pokemon to blow it yourself up and deal a lot of damage? Well, you use another Psychic Pokemon to draw cards and blow other things up, right? So it pairs really well, because Dracloak is always a +1 card every turn, and then Abra's a +2, Alakazam's a +3, Fez is a +3, right? Dawn is also a +2, kind of, because you're able to, obviously, you play the Dawn, so you trade that for 1, and you're also getting +2 cards, meaning you're always seeing cards, which is just super nice, right? Obviously, they do have the Wonder Patch, which is also really cool. Wonder Patch can attach a Psychic Energy from your discard pile to one of your bench Psychic Pokemon. Unfortunately, you can't attach it to the Dragapult, but it means you can use your attach for turn onto a Dragapult and still attack with an Alakazam on that turn, right? So Alakazam is actually a nice early attacker, and you can kind of chill in a one-prize board state, and you can gust around, you know, use your Prime Catcher, use your Boss's Orders, and then you can close out the game with a big Phantom Dive. So there are many ways to play Dragapult. That's a nice thing about Dragapult, and honestly, one of the main reasons that I love to play the deck, and I just haven't gotten sick of it, because there's so many ways that this deck can be built. Having a built-in draw engine just means so much. Like, we've seen so many decks have a built-in draw engine. Like, I think Dragapult right now is reminding me of 2018 Prime LeBron Zoroark GX, right? You could slap whatever the hell you wanted in Zoroark GX and it would do well. And yeah, over here is yet another interesting deck. I've touched upon this a while back. I built a version of the deck, and people seem to like that. Frostlass Dragapult. It's essentially just Grimmsnarl, but with a better attacker, right? A better Grimmsnarl and a draw engine, which is super nice. Another card, right? Moltres. Moltres is amazing. If you thought Dragapult had a bad matchup into Gholdengo, well, luckily for you, next format, it gets a lot easier with Moltres. If you don't know what Moltres does does 20 damage, but it also does plus 90 if your opponent's active Pokemon is an EX Pokemon. And you might be thinking, all right, well, that's only 110 damage. Well, Genesect does 220. It means we can one-shot a Genesect for free, basically. Well, for free, 1 energy. But if we slap a Brave Bangle on this thing, that's plus 30, and that's before weakness. So that means we're doing 140, means we're swinging for 280. That is an 8. 280 means we are killing Gholdengo. Wow, very cool. Free KO for Gholdengo, and we can Night Stretcher and back and manual attach and do it again next turn. No way, Dragapult got buffed again. Whoa, this is so epic and cool. And also, you can just poke stuff, right? Don't get me wrong. It's not a bad card. Oh, your opponent has a Mew EX. Well, let's just swing for 110. Swing for 110. Next turn we can counter catcher, Phantom Dive 200, or like we can go counter catcher, Phantom Dive into something, whatever. Hawlucha, ping the Mew, kill the Mew with the 6 damage counters. Also have a free plus 200. We've still taken essentially 2 prize cards with that Moltres, kinda, and then also have damage elsewhere now. 200 damage that we can work with from the next turn. And then we can also just close out that attack with the Moltres again. Or if we're swinging into something like a Pheasantipity, we can close out that attack with Badoo, so they can't recover the Pheasantipity. That's something else that I don't see, completely off topic, but I don't see people sometimes. It's really nice. You go Phantom Dive, just Fez 200, and you bring that Fez back up and you just Badoo it, right? You itchy Pollen that bang, right? Free 2 prize cards, item lock, they can't get the Fez back. Pretty cool. Anyway, that was kind of random. But yeah, so Charizard is doing quite well as well. That's mainly because of the good old Psyduck, but Charizard is just looking more and more like a pile. Like, I mean, what the hell is this, right, dude? Like, it has so many anti-everything measures right now. Like, you've got this as an attacker because it does 234 energy, which is fucking busted, and you've got Spike Hopper, which you can actually attack through stuff. No way! Fight, you don't, whoa! You don't just auto-lose to fighting Ogerpon, is what I was trying to say, and Crustle. You also one-shot a Crustle. If you play a Tool Scrapper, you can also one-shot Crustle like that. Really nice, very swag. And obviously Dawn, Pidgeot decks are going to be good with Dawn. Moltres is another good. It's just better than Chi-Yu, right? It's just a better Chi-Yu. And then we have the Stadium, which is the prevent all damage counters from being placed on benched Pokemon, both yours and opponents, by effective attacks and abilities from your opponent's Pokemon, which means you can't use Dusknoir and Dusclops. DD is a no-no. You also can't use Monkey. But it doesn't really matter because I can just boss something up and move the damage onto that. Or just, with Dragapult, I play 4 trillion, what is the thing called? 4 trillion Gust cards. I can even go Counter Catcher Boss or Counter Catcher. So Dragapult just has that staying power. It is not going to go anywhere. It's just a very, very good deck. And yeah, if you guys are wondering, like, oh, should I really pick up Dragapult right now? Like, is it actually gonna be worth it? Yes, it is. It is very much so worth it. And I'm working on a guide. It's probably gonna be like 50 pages long, and I'm gonna work through a bunch of different variants of Dragapult with a bunch of different just everything. And yeah, I'll probably make a video on that when I make that. But yeah, if you guys don't want to buy it, you don't gotta. But yeah, I'm a student and I need money for tuition. I want to study, and I also live in Africa. You know when people make that joke, there's kids in Africa. I'm kids in Africa, right? So keep that in mind when you smash like to my videos. But anyway, all right, thanks for watching. Peace.